Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Hello, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi. CHULLIN Daf Yud. We begin 13 lines from the top of the Amid Itmar. We had a discussion in the Beis HaMedrash as follows. HaSheichet B'Saken. Okay, a fellow did a shchita with a knife. V'nimtzeis peguma, after which it was discovered to have been chipped. Question is, when did that occur? Was the knife chipped pre-shchita, which invalidates the shchita itself, or did the damage occur only after the shchita, post-shchita, in which case the shchita is fine? Which way is it? Amar Rav Huna, it's no good. Even though this sheichet / butcher, we know they were very often one and the same person, right? Even if he used this very same knife to cut apart the animal, to break bones, which are likely to have caused this damage. Still, psula, the shchita is possible. Chashina were concerned. So again, even though you could easily attribute the damage to an event that occurred post shchita, in which case the knife was perfectly fine during the shchita and the shchita is valid, no, you assume the worst. We suspect that it wasn't due to the bones. The knife was damaged upon impact with the oyer, the skin, the hide, rough skin. On the way into the shchita, when he came into contact with the skin, with the leather on the way in, that's what roughed up the knife and damaged it. In which case the knife was puzzle. It was unsuitable pre-shchita. In which case the shchita is puzzle. That's Rav Huna's approach. Rav Chisda says it's fine. Shema, some switch it to Amor. We suppose, we assume that in fact the damage was caused by the bones after the shchita. Shema be'etzem nivkama. Now, Bishlam Rav Huna kishmaite. I understand Rav Huna is linked to his opinion discussed yesterday that an animal during its lifetime, it has a cheskas isser, is presumed to be asser, is in a state of isser because it's an ever menachai, you can't eat a live animal, and that state of isser is presumed to have continued on until you can confirm with confidence that there was a proper shchita done, which undoes that status. Here as well, the animal was in a state of isser, and the shchita here is questionable due to this damaged knife that was discovered post-shchita. So you have to leave the animal in its former status, you have to maintain its chazaka and its asr. You have to assume the worst. El Rav Chisda my time, but what's Rav Chisda's basis for permitting the animal? He says, look, what's the likelihood that the knife was damaged by way of impact with the skin, with the oyer? It's more likely that the bones did it, and that was post-shchita. A bone vaday poigim certainly has the ability to damage a knife. Oyer, the skin, safek poigim, safek le poigim. Perhaps yeah, perhaps not. So you have a doubt versus a definitive factor. You have two factors. Safek and vaday. Which one do you follow? Habi safek vaday. The skin is safek. The bones are vaday. Safek has no ability to undo, to override the vaday. We have to assume damage was caused by bones after shchita. Masav Rava l'siyur l'Rav Huna. Comes Rava with a kasha, a raya, a support to Rav Huna, that even in this type of equation, we have to assume the worst. You have to take on the less likely option, due to the fact that there was a chazaka, like we explained. And he has a raya from a story of a fellow who was taval. He was tamei, right? Then he went to the mikvah, immersed. Volani ascended, he came up. Now he's a roofer, right? So on his way out, he finds some black tar on his skin, which would pose a concern, a barrier, which invalidates the tefillah, since the water has to touch, all parts of the skin. So he finds a chatzitza. Even though he knows, right? It's Tuesday morning, he did tefillah. And he knows that on Tuesday he had a roofing job. He had one on Monday too, but on Tuesday he's busy all day with tar. So So after the tefillah Tuesday morning, he was busy with tarring the roofs. Also, like tefillah, you can't count the tefillah as a valid tefillah. Why? Because maybe the tar was there from yesterday and was present during the tefillah and invalidated it. Until he can get up and declare with confidence that this tar was not there before the tefillah. It had been completely cleaned off. That's the halach. Now, let's analyze this closely. Let's take it apart. Now, look at this case. The Vadei Tavel, he certainly did tefillah. Safek Havalei, Safek Lehavalei. And regarding the Chatzitza, maybe it was there during the tefillah, maybe not. So once again, you're faced with this equation. You have a Safek versus a Vadei. Because a Safek, and the Safek Chatzitza undoes the tefillah. So that's right that we don't necessarily adopt Vadei versus a Safek. So as the Gemara Hashani Hasam, well, there it's very different. Could you can say Hamid Tamei Chaskasa. The man had already had a Cheskas Tumah. He was on a Tumah track before he was Toivel. So that's why we pulled in that direction. We can't undo that until we have confirmation otherwise, which we don't in this case. That leads us to speculate that he didn't do tefillah. We have to assume as such unless we confirm otherwise. As opposed to the shechita by the animal. What do you mean? The animal has the same issue. We just said, right? The animal has a cheskas isser, which should also pull us in that direction, despite that it's only a doubtful factor. Hochanami, Hamid behemal cheskasa. Attribute the behema to its chazaka, which means to say maintain its former status of isser ve'emal and now we should have to assume that there was no proper shechita due to the fact that the knife, upon encountering that skin on the outside of the shechita area, was damaged. What do you mean there was no shechita? There is a shechita right here. Well, this fellow who was tovel as well, he did tefillah. What do you mean? He did tefillah right here. Well, well, you'll agree that there was some sort of doubtful, questionable element that was discovered on the person. He found tar on his finger, which undoes his hachanami yalida reyusa. Same thing with the shechita. You found a chipped knife. There's a reyusa. There's something questionable. Well, no, big difference. Where did you find the questionable element? In the animal that was nishchat or in the knife? Sakin Israel, the knife was challenged. Meaning to say there was a reyus, there was a questionable element in the knife itself. Behemula Israel, but not the animal. The animal appears to be presents as a properly shechted animal. And that's why you can't compare the two. And that's why by the person who was toivel, since he had been in a state of tumah, you can't undo that. In a case where you find something problematic on that person himself, even though you know he was toivel and this is only a suffix when it happened, you have to maintain the status. But by the shchuta, Rashi says, the problem in the knife will not undo the status of the behemah which had undergone a shechita. And we assume it was because, in terms of the animal, from the animal's perspective, so to speak, there was no problem during the shechita. The knife, he got chipped through the bones later. Because we know bones certainly chip knives. Meisveh, here comes another kasha on this concept that Vadai is stronger than a suffix in these types of equations. Shachad is haveshus. Now we shift to a bird. An animal needs to be nishchat on both simanim, but a bird, only one siman is enough. Either the windpipe or the food pipe. Shachad is haveshus. He did shchita on the vesha, the food pipe. Then the windpipe snapped out of place. Sure, that's okay because the shchita had already been completed. However, nishmat hagageres, if the gageres snapped out of place, and then he did the shchita on the veshet, psula, it's no good because the animal had been injured before the shchita. It was a treifa. Okay, so this is pretty clear. Now comes an interesting case. Shochat is a veshet. He did shchita on the veshet, fine. V'nimtzeis hagargeres shemuta. Then he discovers a snapped gargeres. Not sure what had happened before or after. And he Yedeya im koydem shchita that happened before the shchita, which invalidates the shchita, or afterwards. Im koydem shchita nishmata, im la'achar shchita nishmata, or that snapped afterwards. Zehoye masad was a story like this, which brought to the Chachamim, but they advised, call safek b'shchita pasal. Whenever you have an uncertainty regarding an act of shchita, it's pasal. Now, when you say call, it's inclusive. What are we including? Call safek b'shchita l'siyamai. Apparently, we're covering another case as well. What's the other doubtful situation that we're talking about? Let's assume that we're talking about this type of case of a chipped knife discovered post shchita. No, we're not talking about that case. A different suffix. He did shchita, we're not sure whether he delayed, whether he took a break, whether doras, whether he pressed too hard, he turned on the base. And in this case, we say that the shchita is presumed to be pasul. But not in the case of the chipped knife. I mean, what's the difference? What would be the difference? They both seem to be very similar. They're both suffix. Difference is hasam isya lidaba reis of behema. In the case of the suffix shah, suffix daras, there's a suffix in the actual act that happened to the behema. Was the act of shchita in the behema done properly? So the suffix there doesn't allow us to permit the behema. But over here by the knife, again, it's a different entity. It's the knife that's found to be problematic later on, and you can attribute it to other sources. The problem was in the knife. Behema Israel, not in the animal. Okay, so bottom line is we have machlokes regarding a chipped knife discovered post shchita. Should we blame it on the bones? Should we blame it on the skin on the way into the shchita? Rav Huna says, Pasal, Rav Chizah says, Kasha. So what's the conclusion? We pass in Kabbalah Rav Huna, like Rav Huna in the more stricter approach, Kishaloi Shibar Ba'etzim, only where he did not involve the knife in cutting bones. So in that case, we have nothing to blame it on. Only option is the skin on the way in. So it's possible. However, when it was used for cutting bones, we pass on Rav Chizda. We blame it on the bones. Now, when you say that, when you say we pass on Rav Huna when there was no bones, Rav Chizda when there were bones, apparently their dispute applies in all cases, right? You're just picking and choosing which Mechlal de Rav Chizda. Apparently, you mean to say Rav Chizda would promote his view, Avagab de lo yeshiva, even if there was no bones involved. So what are you going to attribute the trip to? How could you accept the shchita? How did the knife get chipped? In a way that still maintains a kosher shchita, meaning, how did it happen? If not before. You can suggest that the sheikh, as he's going through the simanim, when he's done the shchita, he bumped into the backbone, right? The animal's overturned, right? So you start from the bottom of the neck and you make your way back to the backbone, and he may have encountered the backbone, and that could have chipped the knife. We're not sure, but maybe. So as long as we can attribute it to that reason, and that happened post shchita, so shchita is okay. That's Rav Chizda's approach. Okay, there was a story. V'tarav Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef was the Rav. He prohibited, considered to be treifa ad tleisa chiyusa, until up to 13. There was a line of about 13 animals, 13 behemoths that were shechted, and the sheikh had failed to inspect his knife, to examine his knife between the shchitas. He only decided to check them at the end, and then it was discovered to be chipped. So Rav Yosef says, all pasul, all treif. Says the Gemara, there are two ways to understand his ruling. Shall we say Kaman, like who? Rav Huna? Is he going like Rav Huna? Is that we have to assume the worst? The damage occurred upon the initial impact with the first skin of the first animal, so in which case, you invalidate even the first animal. Really? Is that what he meant? All 13, even number 1? No. Who says? Rav Chizda, perhaps like Rav Chizda. Except for the first one, which means to say like this. He permitted the first one, because at that point the knife was presumed to be whole and fully sharp. We blame the chip on the mafrekas, on the backbone, that he encountered as he completed that first shchita. So the first shchita is okay. First shchita is out of the woods. It's only the subsequent shchitas from 2 and on that became possible. So perhaps that's what he had in mind. Anyway, so another way to understand Rav Yosef's ruling is, let him Rav Huna. Certainly you want like Rav Huna, that all 13 are pasul. Why? Because according to Rav Chisda, why would he invalidate any? Michti, look, talina. According to Rav Chisda, we hope for the best. We attribute the chip to an innocent cause, right? In order to permit the animals. So, if that's the case, we can attribute it to the backbone of the last shechita of the last animal, in which case they're all good. So nothing would be a problem. If who says the pgam, who says the chip, resulted from his encounter with the etzim, the bone of the mafrekas of the backbone kamaisa of the first animal, which would validate the first but invalidate the rest. No, Dilma perhaps be'etzem the mafrekas the basraisifkim. Perhaps for the same money you could say that it was damaged by encountering the last backbone of the last animal, in which case all animals are okay. And the fact that he certainly was answering some, he said treif Torah for Yosef, so apparently there's some problem. Apparently he's going like Rav Huna and not like Rav Chisda. Amar le Rav Acha b'Rav Rashi. You know, Rav Kahana, he had a practice as follows. Matzrich, he would require the sheikha to make a b'dikusa, to examine the knife bein kol chada v'chada, between one shechita and the other. So you had a lineup of animals. Between each shechita, you have to check the knife to ensure that it's kosher. Again, whose shechita is he following? Whose opinion is he relating to? Kiman, Rav Huna. Shall we assume it's going like Rav Huna, the more strict approach? U'misal kamaisa. And to invalidate the first shechita, which means to say, suppose it was discovered to be chipped after the first shechita, he would invalidate the shechita retroactively, because like Rav Huna, we blame it on the first encounter with the first piece of skin, and the animal's pasul. Lo, no, who says he went that far? Who says it was picking Rav Huna's shechita? Maybe Rav Chisda. Maybe he was adopting Rav Chisda's view, the more lenient approach, l'chshuri basraisa, and to validate the last one, which means to say that you attribute the chip to the backbone, which occurs at the end of the shechita. And the purpose of checking it between one shechita and the other is because otherwise, if he only checks it at the end of the whole lineup and he finds it to be chipped, everything will be pasul except for the first one. So the purpose is not to validate the first shechita retroactively. That certainly would be kosher. The purpose is going forward to ensure that the next shechita is okay. If that's the case, if it's a pre-shechita inspection, then you have to show it to the chacham, to the rabbi, to the rav. That's the halacha, that the knife has to be examined before the shechita. Well, you don't need to go to the rav. Even a single witness, even a person like a butcher, is to be trusted in matters of isur. Rashi brings a raya. Look, the Torah says, "V'shachad has been abaka," right? You shech the korban Beis Hamikdash, and the kohanim eat it. How could they rely on the sheikhad? Who says the sheikhad is knowledgeable? We assume that the person doing the shechita is a knowledgeable person, that he used a kosher knife. So if it's so simple, then why do you ever show it to the chacham? If that's the case, mikar namilei, then initially when you start the lineup of animals, why do you have to show it to the chacham then? Just trust the butcher. The answer is, technically you're right, halachically the butcher could be trusted, but there was a special system established where they would show they go to the rav, to the prominent Talmud Chacham in town, to show him the knife. That was considered an honorable gesture, appropriate for this for his position. Rabbi Yechon tells us, the only reason why they instructed us laharois sakan l'chacham, to show the sakan to the chacham of the town, elef nei kavod l'shel chacham, in order to grant him his kavod, it was more like a formality than anything else. So for that, it's enough that you showed him the first time. at the beginning of the day, before you started the shechita, you go to the Rav, you give him the kavod. But past that point, even though you are required to continuously examine your knife between shechita and one shechita to the next, but for that, the butcher is enough. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap before we continue. So the knife has to be inspected before the shechita, specifically by the chacham, and then between one shechita and the next to ensure continuous kashrus. What happens if the knife was discovered to be a chip knife after the shechita? We have Rav Huna says pasul, Rav Chizda says kosher. We pass on Rav Huna when there were no bones dissected later with this knife, so you can only blame it on the skin going into the first shechita. Rav Chizda, we pass on like when the knife was used to break apart bones later on, so we blame it on the bones. Okay, but practically, you meant to check before every single shechita to ensure there's no complications. Continues the Gemara. We speak a lot about chazaka, right? There's an established status that has to be maintained, right? How do we know that? What is the source in the Torah for the idea of chazaka? Menoha milsa, da'amar rabbanan, uki milsa achazake. Where's the source for this saying, for this lesson taught by the Chacham that uki milsa, you allow, you leave something in its chazak, in its status, unless confirmed otherwise. Omar Rabbi Shmuel, Bar Nachman, Omar Yenis, Omakra. Look at the pasuk by the nega. So you have a home which experienced a blotch, a nega. The kohen comes and takes a look, and he walks out and locks up the house, puts it into quarantine for a full week until next week when he comes back and takes another look. V'yotza kohen. He has to leave the room. Then he locks up the room. Shiva for 7 days. The question is, fine, he noticed that the nega had the required, size, a shiur of a gris, right? The size of a big bean, right? Which is the minimum size of a nega. But now when he's at the door locking up the house, who's to say that the nega hasn't shrunk in size? Who says the nega is still there? If it had shrunk at that point, the hezger, the act of hezger, is invalid. That's the question. V'dilma. So if we have to always speculate, question, perhaps things have changed unknowingly, how do you know what happened from one second to the next without the chazaka aspect, without the chazaka concept, keeping things, sturdy and in place? V'dilma adanavik v'asa. Perhaps as he's leaving, the shiur, the nega is diminished. It must be that we work with chazaka. It was big before, it's big now, unless we know otherwise. Maskala of Achbar Yaakov. Who says rely on chazaka? Maybe he's watching it on his way out as well. He's walking backwards in a way that he can keep an eye on the nega and its size to confirm its shear. Perhaps he's walking backwards. And he can keep an eye on it as he's leaving. Abai says 2 problems with that. 2 things. First of all, that's not called Yitzia. Yitzia means leaving the way you leave, turn around and leave. First of all, the Yitzia derech hacharev, walking backwards, lo yishma Yitzia, doesn't constitute Yitzia. And the pasuk says v'yotze, has to leave properly. That's first of all. Furthermore, that's good if you can actually maintain eye contact. Well, let's say it's behind the door, and as he's leaving, it's blocked by the door. So even if he's trying to see it, he can't see it. What are you going to do then, Michael and Maimer? You're stuck. So perhaps you'll punch a hole in the door, you make a little window, and you can keep an eye on the nega, even though it's behind the window. You can't do that. But now we have a Mishnah Bais, often a dark room, which makes it difficult to see the nega with natural light. You're not allowed to build a window in order to be able to see the nega. Literally says nigay. So you see, you can't just create windows. Amalei Rabba, so Rabba responded to Abai. First of all, the Amris, regarding your point of backward walking, Yitzia derech hacharev lo yishma Yitzia. You mean to say that walking backwards is not considered Yitzia? I'll prove to you from a case once a year where the Kohen Gadol walks backwards, and it's called Yitzia. Kohen Gadol, the great Kohen Gadol B'Yom Kippurim, on his way out of the Kodesh HaKadosh, that will disprove this point. That will prove that even backwards walking is considered the Chsibe Yitzia. The pasuk says v'yatza, he leaves, right? The Beis HaKadosh HaKadoshim, and we all know that how did he leave? He didn't turn his back to the Aron. He walked in, and then still with his face facing inward, he would sort of step back. Derech kavod, it's none. Yatza, he would leave. Ubaloi, derech knisas, he would leave in the same manner, facing the same direction as the way he entered. So you see that even that type of backward walk is called yitzir. The comments regarding your second question, windows. Yeah, when it's dark, you can't make windows. But here we're not talking about a lack of light. We're just talking about giving him access to the nega. Bayis afel and poism chalonis, the dark room, you can't be refurbished for the to access the nega. Liris says nigo. Yeah, honey, that's only hechad lo yischazek. When it wasn't yet established, he couldn't see the nega. He couldn't determine its status. You're not allowed to break windows. You're not allowed to build windows. Aval hechad is chazek. But here it was already established. He saw it clearly. It's just a question of maintaining eye contact. Is chazek. It's been established. It's already a nega. It's just. But in any case, Rav Acha bar Yaakov challenged our source. We use the nega phenomenon as a source to chazak, and he challenged. He said maybe he's walking backwards, and maybe maintaining eye contact, and that's how he does the hesger. Tanya, we have a brisa, the loiker Rav Acha bar Yaakov, unlike his shita, which proves that he can be doing it at a distance without eye contact. V'yota kohen abayis. The kohen leaves the room. How far is he? Is he allowed to go back, to his house? He lives next door. Can he do that and yank the door shut with a long rope? No. He has to be standing at the entranceway of this very room. If it's Pesach Habayis, perhaps he has to stand under the lintel and do the heskir there. No, he has to be outside the room. He has to leave the room. Okay, so where's he standing exactly? He leaves the room entirely, but he's standing right beside the mashka, right behind the entranceway, and that's where he does the heskir. But let's say he goes next door. Let's say he went to his house next door and did the heskir from there. Or conversely, he was standing in the room and did heskir. It's not preferred, but does it work? Yeah, she's geri hesker. Any way he does it, it's okay. So even if he's next door at a distance, certainly he can't maintain eye contact from next door. And apparently it works. Apparently it's based on chazaka. We assume that they can maintain its size. So he says no. We turn to Yudal from it. True, he's standing next door, but there's a line of people stretching from the nega until next door, and they're all conveying to him by way of relayed messages that the nega is perfectly standing. For instance, they were standing a line of the Gavri of men, the Amri, and passing on to him the message. The nega is still there. Okay, in any case, the Gemara did bring a raya from Eloch of Nega that we follow Chazaka, because otherwise, how could the Kohen be sure that the Nega still has its shear? Right? Because the Kohen has to be standing at the doorway outside. I guess we don't assume that there are a row of people standing. We assume it's a regular case of a Kohen. Apparently, you can assume that the nega is still the way it was because of the halacha of chazaka, and hence we have a source of chazaka for kol ha-torah. All the best to you and atzlacha.